Hey guys, welcome to Probate Cafe for another episode of our podcast. Thank you for joining us. And today I have a special guest, Tony Nelson with Synergy One with us. And he's going to share a little bit about what he does and how it could possibly benefit you in certain situations. So Tony, tell us a little bit about about yourself and your business.
Well, my name's Tony Nelson. I'm a real estate broker. I've been doing real estate since the 80s, believe it or not. And got my broker's license back in the 90s. And basically what I do is I sell real estate, number one. And number two is I buy homes, fix them up, and resell them. And then I manage my portfolio of real estate that I own. So.
And Tony and I have done business together, and he's probably one of the only one or a few investors that I trust in the marketplace. We're always dealing with the people that go to the seminars and things like that, and you can never trust them. They're always trying to pull this or that to get a good deal or renegotiate. And that's what I like about Tony. That's why I invited him here, because he's honest, he's straight up, and we become friends as well through that process. But yeah, he's great to work with. So it's been a joy working with you, and it's been simple. So, and what inspired you to get into real estate?
When I was younger, I wanted to build a house. So I thought the easiest way to get into building a house would be to get into real estate. So I went to college, got a degree in finance, real estate, and law from Cal Poly Pomona, and was working for a bank. And I wanted to get into real estate, but I didn't have a lot of money. And one of my buddies came and says, "Hey, you want to buy a house?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I bought a condemned home in San Bernardino. And it was 677 West 8th Street. I always remember the address because it was my first house I ever bought. And we spent the next 6 months basically redoing the home. And that's how I kind of got into real estate. And that has led me to, of course, building homes. But more importantly, that was the trip that got me into real estate.
Interesting. And I like that where you say you remember the first home. And I don't think there's any realtors that don't remember the first home that they've sold. Yeah. Mine was over here in Norwalk on Liebecker. It was an agent right out of this office here about, 1991. So yeah, it's interesting. I always remember that.
I try to remember every address of home that I owned or rehabbed. And one of my contractors says, "How do you remember those addresses?" The way of like kind of timing my brain or training my brain is to try to remember every address. Like I remember the one on Spruce that we did, and of course Miguel Vista that I'm working on now. So I try to remember the addresses. So that one sticks out with me, of course, because it's my first home that I actually bought. It's been a great ride. Let me tell you, it's been the greatest thing ever. Nice.
And tell us a little bit about your business model. Like, what do you
basically what I number one is I sell real estate. So I list and sell properties. Mostly I'm a listing agent. I don't do as much working with buyers. I mostly sell. And then I also manage my portfolio of real estate. I have a number of doors that I own. And so I've acquired those doors either by rehabbing and then keeping them, or I've acquired properties that I rent out. And then the other part is I buy properties just like your listings. I'll buy one of your listings and fix it up. I just got one under contract today out in Hemet. And I've got another one closing tomorrow. We just funded today out in Downey. So it's pretty much anything related to real estate, right?
Yeah.
So either I'm selling real estate, I'm buying real estate and rehabbing it, or I'm managing my rental portfolio that I own. Anything to do with real estate, that's what I'm into. So if you got a property that you need rehabbing, or if you got a property that you want to sell, I'm the guy.
Wow. So I would classify you as not the millionaire next door, the multimillionaire next door, without even people noting it.
I mean, I live a very simple life. Yeah. Most people, I live a very simple life. I don't know if I'm classified as a millionaire, but I've acquired a lot of assets, and I'm super duper blessed. I mean, I would never, I had a buddy of mine say one time, he says, what do you do when your reality exceeds your dreams? Oh, yeah. And he said, just shut up and enjoy it. And I'm kind of at that point to where I never expected to be at this position. I got into real estate kind of just because I love real estate and I wanted to build a house. And now all facets of it's under my control. So yeah, I'm super happy and super excited about the business. I told my assistant yesterday, I said, I'm more hungry today than when I first got in the business, which is weird because most people kind of like, I still look for the deal, the opportunity.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And I know what impressed me about you when we did that first deal a couple of years ago was you actually called me back and you shipped me my lockbox because it was a little bit far from me, about an hour away. And that was really cool because I think you and I go into that mindset with, okay, how can we help somebody else when we're in this situation, whether that's our clients and or people that we're working with, and share with us about your clientele. How do you kind of work with them, and what's your, how do you serve them?
I always look at every client, no matter if it's $100,000 transaction or if it's $1 million transaction. I try to take care of every client the same way. I tell everybody that I'm in the customer service business. It's almost like people say, "What business are you?" And I don't say real estate, I say customer service, because in our society nowadays, people don't really get good customer service. I mean, we all go to a restaurant, and you want your drink refilled, you want your meal to come hot, and you want good service. We don't get that as much, and this is an opportunity where someone's selling their biggest asset, and you give them the opportunity to give them 100% of your attention and your customer service. So I try to make my clients come back to me after the fact and say, "Man, you really made this easy. I was kind of dreading it, but now it's easy because you took care of getting the repairs done. You took care of meeting with the appraiser. You helped me get the property ready to go. Everything went smoothly. You sent someone out to do this, or you signed this paperwork with me, and you got everything taken care of." So I try to treat every client with that kind of the same way I'd want to be treated, whether I'm sitting at a fancy restaurant or if I'm just in a line at a small store. I want to give people that kind of customer service because they remember that. I think there's one of those things, people don't remember you, but they remember how you make them feel. And I want them to think like, "Man, Tony, he really goes out of his way." I really care about my clients. I try to give them 100% of my attention and 100% of my time and make them feel like they're special, because they are. I recently had a transaction where I did a $100,000 short sale out in San Bernardino. And the same client came back to me 4 years later and sold a 1.6 million in LA. Right. And she says, "It was all based upon the fact that the way you took care of that short sale for me really cemented my relationship with you for my own home that I was selling that was worth quite a bit of money. And if I had not taken care of her on that $100,000 sale, I would never got the $1.6 million listing, which I actually ended up double ending at 6%. Right.
Nice.
So, $2,000 commission up to a much larger commission. And that was all just based on customer service.
Yeah, I think the success has clues, right? You treat everybody well. You do a good job.
Treat everybody the way you'd want to be treated, and realize that in our society nowadays, people don't give good customer service.
They don't. No one's trained.
It's one of those things where, and you can set yourself apart simply by doing a little bit more. And that even with our relationship, the other day I dropped off your sign. I mean, I held on to it for about 4 months, right? Yeah. But I know those are the things that really make me feel good, because it's not the big things people do for me. It's the small things. It's my buddy saying, "Hey, listen, man, I know you're working. I'm going to stop by and bring you a sandwich." Like, really? And he's like, "Dude, I know you never take lunch, but I'm going to bring you by." That was more important than him saying, "I'm going to buy you a Rolex watch," or "I'm going to take you on a trip." It's the little things that really make a difference. And people, when you make someone feel special, they're going to remember that feeling. Right?
Yeah, so for sure.
That's the way I try to treat all my clients and all my customers. I mean, even ask my friends, they'll probably tell them the same thing.
Hey, and that's important because, when, we're dealing with customers, a lot of times they're maybe out of the area, they're clients really, but they're not going to be local. So they're kind of trusting us to do the right thing and giving them all the information and giving them our opinions on what the best solution may be, but give them options as well.
Oh, definitely.
And then work hard too. Cause you and I both work hard. It's like that when you mentioned, when you dropped me that sign, you were like, "Hey, your car looks like my car. You got your lunch box in your front seat," cause we drive everywhere. And it's not like, we're these glamorous, well, I'm not anyway, these glamorous realtors that you see on the shows, but we're out there working hard, and, and success leaves clues, right? You work hard, you do a good job.
If you do a good job for people, they will definitely remember you. And no, it's not that whole glamour thing. I watch people with those $1 million listings and stuff. I don't sell $1 million houses. I mean, I've had probably in my entire career, maybe 3 homes over $1 million. And one of them was mine. Okay, that I was selling a flip. But most of my clients are regular people. I don't shoot glamorous shots in front of these really multi-million-dollar properties, because that's not my niche. Yeah. And the riches are in the niches, as they say. I'm more the guy that's below the median price of any county. So whether it's LA, San Bernardino, Riverside, Orange County, even my property that I have in San Diego, it's $200,000 below the median price in San Diego. So that's where my sweet spot is. If someone called me for a $3-4 million sale, that's not my market. My market is more like the average Joe kind of guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think that's kind of what I sell to. Everything under $1 million typically is the probate stuff. So it's like, it's kind of unfortunate that people don't have trust set up to protect them, but we just roll with the punches, right?
I have that conversation with people all the time. I say, "Do you have a living trust?" No, I'm just going to put my kids on title and go. I just go, "Pow!" Like, no, don't do that. But it creates business for you and I. I mean,
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Kind of, we're the service industry, but it's an unfortunate thing that we deal with.
It's a penny wise, pound foolish. You
Yeah.
can spend the money up front. I know a living trust is going to cost a few dollars, but you're going to save so much money down the road, right?
Yeah, and if you're watching this, and if you need a referral, if your home is not in a trust, reach out to either one of us, and we'll refer you to somebody competent that does know how to work with estate planning and trusts and things like that. It'll pay dividends down the road that you would not believe.
Yeah,
and then, with you wearing so many hats, how do you kind of manage that in your personal life? Because you do a lot of work. So I see you everywhere.
You know what? The one thing is because I really enjoy what I do. So it makes it a lot easier. Probably for most people that kind of look at it, oh, I hate doing that. I love going down to San Diego, and I try to incorporate that into what I do. So if I'm going to San Diego, I say, hey, babe, let's go to San Diego and spend the weekend, and I'll check on my property. Or I have properties out in the desert, low desert, out in Palm Springs in India. I'll say, hey, let's make it a weekend. Go out there, I'll check on the properties or whatever the progress is. And so, but I also have two personal assistants that basically help me. So I've got a full-time personal assistant that helps me, and I've got another assistant that helps me with my rental properties and with everything that I do. So it's more of me giving the customer service, and then they take care of the backroom stuff so that I can be in front of people. So I can take care of Mr. Layton. I can take care of, Miss Bullock or whoever my client may be at that time. In this business, people want that service. And by having assistants that can help me with the paperwork and with the logistical stuff, I can go out and actually provide that customer service. So yeah, there's a balance, but in life, there's never really a complete, 50-50 balance or anything like that. But I try to, delegate a lot of work out and let go of a lot of things and leave me more to do the selling, if that makes sense. So as far as the hats that I wear, I don't do the construction work myself. I have two construction teams, and both of them know exactly what I do. So we do the same thing over and over again. So that makes it easy. I put one in Canoga Park recently, one in Apple Valley. They're both working. They're both doing the exact same thing. Exact same roof, exact same flooring, exact same bathrooms, all the same. And then my sisters know the same way I work. If I take a listing, it goes in MLS, call the photographer. All those things are coordinated because it's almost like a system. So a good buddy of mine back in the day, Mark Valdez, says, if you build a system, all you have to do is plug and play. So my thing is to go be the rainmaker. So all I do is go out and generate the business, find the deals, find the listings. They take care of all the paperwork. Oh. So it allows me my free time. If some agents don't allow themselves to let go, you have to get people and let them be competent and let them do the jobs that you hire them to do, and then you focus on what you do best. There's no way I could do everything, right?
Right.
But
right.
I focus on relationships, building relationships. My relationship with you, the other day, it took a little bit of time. I dropped off the sign to you. We met up and I took care of something for you. It's about building relationships. That goes so much further than me sitting there doing the paperwork, right?
Yeah, yep.
So yeah, I'm able to maintain balance because basically I've been in the business a long time. I know business will always be there. I know if I take care of my clients, business will be there. So in creating that balance, how would I say it? You have to have time off to be effective. You can't just be all real estate. You can't be 24/7.
You burn out.
You just, well, not only that, you really burn out, yes, but you won't be able to give your clients 100% of attention if you don't take some time to yourself. So I make sure I take time to myself. And although I work a lot, believe you me, even my assistant says, I can't believe you're posting at 3:30 in the morning, but I may wake up at 3:30 today and go to bed at 8 o'clock tomorrow. That's just the way I am. I'm programmed to get up. And when my mind is running, I'm going to get up. But I do, you may catch me sometime going to sleep at 8 o'clock. So yeah, but and I love what I do. That's probably one of the biggest things is that most people look at their job as a job and they can't wait to get through with it, or they can't wait till retirement. Like I said, I'm hungry today like I was when I was 21 getting into the business. I mean, I love what I do. So that makes a big difference.
Oh, yeah. And then I know some things that you and I do are similar for our clients, right? We go in, we get our estimates, we renovate, we determine, what we're going to do with the property, if anything. Yeah. So in that process, what is kind of a lesson maybe you've learned or a pitfall that you come across in dealing with that? Because I know I have a few for sure where, people that, your handyman doesn't show up, he's sick, and the client expects something to be done. And, I always have to explain to them it's it's not a firm date where these things are going to be done. We have permits. We have a lot of things that could go wrong that we take care of. But
being that I have the same crews that have been working with me for some time, I can pretty much. I just had a situation. There was a probate sale, and the owner passed away in the property, and the gentleman was like, "I just want to sell it the way it is." And I said, "You know what? You're going to get a lot less because it needs flooring. People can see, that someone passed away in the property. Why don't you let me, go in and do the work that needs to be done?" And my painters came and did the work. The carpet guy came in. I've got a trash out guy that helped them go through the property. And this client was the one I was recently talking about. He was just so happy. Things aren't always going to happen on that exact schedule, right? They're not going to happen on the exact schedule. But if you communicate and make sure that the painter didn't show up today, he had to take care of something else, finish up another job, he'll be there. It's all in the communication, right? Because if I communicate to them that, give me 3 weeks and I'll have it ready to go, that gives me a little bit of leeway. Like anything, right? You say if it's going to be done in 2, give yourself an extra week. If you say it's going to be done in, a certain amount of time, give yourself a little bit extra. And for the most part, sometimes contractors aren't going to show up on time, but I've been working with some of the same guys. One of my guys has been with me for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
He works exclusively on my flips and on my rentals and on my client's property. And I recently inherited another one. One of my business partners left and moved to Florida. And we're still business partners, but he left behind one of his crew, and his guy works. And these guys are dedicated. They're hardworking, and they may not be the cheapest, but they're the hardest working guys I know, and they get things done. I've got tons of rental properties, and these guys service my rental properties along with my flips, along with when I get a listing, much like what you're talking about, I'll have them go out and give me an estimate. And I know that not only the price is going to be fair, but it's going to get done. And it's going to get done correctly. Right?
And I think that's the biggest thing that I think I see in our industry when someone goes out to either connect with an agent or get some work done, they factor in or they go with the cheapest person, which is typically that I see that a lot, and it's not always it's not good.
You
right?
pay for what you get. You pay for what you get, and that's one thing I would tell people a lot of times. I'll say, listen, I can send my guy out to take care of it. And they're like, well, how much is it going to cost? I say, bottom line, it's going to get done. Number one, and number two, it's going to be a fair price. Because I can't go to my guy and say, do it for nothing, but yet he's going to go out there. And there's been situations where someone says, hey, listen, can your guy change my toilet? I'm like, he could, but you're not going to want to pay him to drive across town to replace the toilet. But if you want the toilet done, I will send him. But please don't have him come out and then don't use him. Yeah. Because you just wasted part of his day. If he's one of my guys and my client says, hey, listen, Tony, I need to get this done, he'll go out and get it done and taken care of. Because it's very difficult for someone to show up at a job, give you an estimate, and then they don't get the job because you're looking for the lowest price. You pay for what you get in America. If you're going to a steakhouse and you pay $20, what kind of steak are you getting?
Yeah, 4-ounce filet.
It's probably going to be tougher than what do you call that place? What was the Corral place?
The Golden Corral. I think
it's going to be. And again, if you go to a nice place, I always tell people I'd rather pay $50, $60, $70 for a steak because I'm not going to have a steak every night. But if I go get a $20 steak, I'm going to be cutting it, and you pay for what you get in this world, and penny wise and pound foolish. I mean, you're going to end up paying more in the end. I pay a lot of money to my contractors to do the work they do, and I tell my clients, but you're going to get quality work. I've got an old house in Pasadena, 1895. We're repainting it right now. I'm probably going to spend twice the money to paint that 1895 house than I would a regular house, but when he finishes it, it's going to be done correctly.
Yeah.
And the paint's going to last for 5, 7, 10 years because it's an old house. So you pay for what you get. You put it in there.
And you're talking about your crew basically, or your contractors typically that you work with, and I kind of do that too. It's like I don't use my guys. That's why they're loyal and they do a good job. Is because I'll even have them. I'll send them out there for an estimate, and I'll pay them for the estimate.
Oh, definitely.
It's
only fair.
Yeah,
time is money.
And people think sometimes they just think, oh, just call somebody out there and there. It's like, no, there's a lot involved in an estimate. Okay. If you're trying to save some dollars, it's not the way to go because you could end up losing huge on the resale. Even if you're negotiating with investors, you got to know your numbers. And we talked about that. It's like definitely. You're not. Our negotiations they went well, but it's like we got to know our numbers, each of us, to see where we can kind of meet
recent project. You asked me about my numbers, and we were pretty much right on the same number. But I expect to spend money to make money. I think my dad used to always tell me this, and when I was a kid, I used to cut grass. And my dad would say, I would say, I'm going to use the family lawnmower. And my dad's like, no, you got to go buy your own lawnmower. I'm like, well, we have a lawnmower right here, Dad. And he says, no, if you want to have a lawnmower business, you go buy a lawnmower. You want to deliver papers, you get a bike of your own. You're not using the one in the house, right? And so it taught me that if you want to make money, you got to spend money.
And let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
When did you first think that you were an entrepreneur? Like,
Oh, I was an entrepreneur when I was a kid. I used to do this thing called Junior Achievements back in the 70s. I would make, my dad would always, he was involved in what they call Junior Achievements. It's where it would teach kids, young people, high school kids, how to make money. And one thing that I did, I remember making these, this is how long ago this was, I would make personalized matches. Because back in the 70s, everybody smoked, right?
Yeah.
So I would basically make you personalized matches. It would say Eric Kaiser, and I would stamp it on there if you wanted a logo or something, and I would sell them to my neighbors, whoever, right? And I had a little pressing machine, and I could, I'd make maybe a couple of dollars, and then I started delivering papers when I was probably 12 or 13 in Carson. And then when we moved to Walnut, I delivered the paper out there, the Daily Breeze. I delivered the Daily Breeze, the San Gabriel Valley Tribune. I always had a little something going on, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was washing cars in my neighborhood, I was known for washing cars. I was known for cutting everybody's grass in Carson. And a matter of fact, when I got into the business, I ran into a past client that I used to deliver the newspaper. And this guy would always give me a $100 bill. Now, granted, this was like 1975. He would give a 10, 12-year-old a $100 bill to pay for $3 worth of monthly newspapers. And I always had to come back. And when I got older, I ended up having him as a client. And he goes, hey, you used to deliver the newspaper. And I go, yeah. He goes, I was that guy. And it was just so ironic what a small world it is. But that's why I cut my teeth in being an entrepreneur when I was a kid, and like 10, 11, 12 years old. And I didn't know that was being an entrepreneur. I just knew that my dad said, anything you wanted, you got to pay for half of it. So he would make us go out and earn it.
Oh, good.
And so I learned the value of money. And that's why to this day, I don't have this lavish lifestyle, because you have to pay for it.
Right.
I mean, you have to physically pay for it, not put it on credit. You've got to pay for it. So that was one of the things that my dad instilled in me a long time ago. And I don't think he was trying to push me into being an entrepreneur, because I went to college. I had a corporate job at Wells Fargo when I graduated from college, but somehow I kind of moved into the entrepreneurial space because it just fit who I am.
Yeah, I think we're probably cut from the same cloth, meaning that you kind of know early on, if you're going to be a hustler and make it happen, right?
Exactly. It's funny you say that, because people say hustler, it doesn't have the same connotation as when I was a kid, right? Because when I was a kid, if you're a hustler, that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you're a hustler, when you hustle. Well,
true.
It was always something to do. It was always there was never a time where we weren't sitting around doing nothing. My dad was like, hey, you need to, get something, whether you're delivering newspapers or making matches or whatever. And there were so many other things that I've tried growing up, but those are ones I specifically remember very, vividly.
That's funny. I have a story. I think I realized it when I used to spend the night at my grandma's house. I must have been in the 5th grade, 4th, 5th, maybe 6th, I'm not sure. And she used to have this bowl of candy. She was like, take as much as you want or whatever. So I started taking some to school, and then I started selling some for 5 cents a piece. And I knew I can get my cookie for like 15 cents or 20 cents. So I'm like, I just sell 5 cents a piece. I'd be selling on the schoolyard. Yeah. And then I would just come up and get my chocolate milk and my cookie. Yeah. I'm like that. And then even before that, though, my buddy and I, we were latchkey kids, right, in the 70s, late 70s, 1980. And you'd be on your bike in the neighborhood, and we'd go by in the fall, and we'd knock on doors and see, a yard full of leaves, like maple leaves, and we'd offer to rake their lawn. Then we'd go over to the liquor store, play our video games, and we had money for McDonald's.
Exactly. Collect the bottles from my grandparents.
Oh, yeah.
My grandfather would give my brother and us, if we'd collect all the bottles, he'd let us take them up there and get money for it. You go through life, but I think I learned so much from my dad about just being hardworking.
Oh, yeah.
That's the bottom line. My dad was one of the hardest working guys, and I didn't realize that. I've had uncles that are hard workers, and in all kinds of different routes. I mean, I've had, garbage collectors and truck drivers and, corporate guys. But one thing that I always saw was hard work pays off.
Oh yeah.
I always saw hard work pays off, and as long as you work hard and you work smart, you're gonna succeed in this world.
Yeah, you track and measure what if something's not working, you
Oh yeah,
fix it,
definitely,
right? Or
definitely.
if how
What
you
was
can
it
make
you're
it
talking
better.
about? You were talking about the candy thing. It was funny, like you brought back some memories from my days at Leapwood Elementary. I used to buy candy and take it to school and sell it. And then one day we got I think the principal or something says, not, no selling candy at school.
See, and that's so wrong because you're trying to. It just goes against the whole American system of capitalism, trying to make some money
there's a
and
time and
support
place,
yourself.
right?
I know, but I would encourage. If I was them, we're different people though. We're not principals or teachers or if you put me in that position, I'd be like, yeah, sell as much as you want, just make sure it's clean and closed up or whatever. I just like that. That's a good skill set, like your thing. It teaches people to survive.
It was something. I think you and I are, like you said, cut from the same cloth, because that's something I definitely did when I was in elementary school.
So here's a question: how do you evaluate real estate deals? What factors do you consider when you're looking to invest or
a lot of things I take into effect. Well, especially right now. Last year I bought about 20 properties, and I had about 18 on the board at one time that they were either in escrow, they were in production, or I actually owned them. And the market has been, as you know, crazy, right? So I try to look at interest rates. I look at availability, and I look at the sentiment, what's going on even right now. And it's ever changing. 6 months ago, I was trying to unload everything I had. Spruce, Etowanda, I was basically buying them and then cleaning them up and reselling them, not even rehabbing them, because I was worried about interest rates and what that was going to do to the market. And now I'm completely different. It's like, okay, there's very little inventory. So when I look at a transaction and I look at a property, like I'm looking at one in Downey right now, I look at where the market is. How many properties are on the market? And what do I think it's going to be worth once I finish in comparison to what's out there in the marketplace and what's currently pending is going to close? Where most people look at it from a standpoint of what's already closed, I'm looking at what's pending and what's active. I really don't, I care what's close because those are my comps, of course, but what's the market doing right now? And as you know, right now, what's happening? There's very little inventory, clean inventory. Most of the time, people are they're afraid. They're kind of looking in the rearview mirror. Oh, the market's going to crash. Well, if you really look at it, the market's not crashing. Why? Because a lot of people have low interest rates. I'm sitting on probably tons of loans, non-owner occupieds at 3.5%, 3%. And I look at what's going on in the marketplace more than what the deal. The deal's important, but what's going on in the marketplace when I got to sell back into the market. They say you make your money when you buy, right? But if you buy these properties right, you're going to make your money on the back end and knowing where the market is going. So I'm not probably the best number cruncher. Like I kind of estimate what it's going to cost to fix a property. I can pretty much know, because I've done hundreds of flips, how much it's roughly going to cost, and kind of put in a measure there of plus or minus. What if I got to put the roof on? What if there's a little bit of foundation issues we got to correct? So I look at it all the way around: the deal, the market in that specific area, the competition I'm going to have, and those kind of things. If you see something active and it's clean and it's turnkey and it's going on the market, it's selling in 5 days, then you probably know you're going to experience the same thing when you bring yours to the market. What's really unique about what we do is that I'm bringing something to the market that is turnkey and ready to go. I'm competing against Mary and Joe Smith's house that hasn't been remodeled in 10 years or 20 years. Someone's going to see mine at 800 and see theirs at 729 and be like, the difference is $400 or $500 in payment, but there's no work. So I'm going to usually get top dollar right now, because even though rates are higher, they're not high, right? You've been in business long enough to remember.
Oh, yeah. 10 and a half.
Yeah, my mom and dad bought their house in Orange County. And I remember my mom sitting there with my dad saying, this is a bad time. And my dad said, and this is one thing I tell people all the time, the best time to buy is when you can, not when you want to. And there's a big difference, right? The big difference is my parents could afford to buy in Villa Park and move out of Walnut. They had subsidized from my dad's employer. They were paying for all the selling costs, all the buying costs, and they were basically buying down the rate. So they bought. It wasn't a good time. 1983, when rates were 16%, people were people were afraid to do stuff.
Yeah.
They moved. Now, the difference between buying that house and staying in Walnut was $1 million difference. The valuation in Walnut compared to what the valuation was, that was $1 million move. So knowing the marketplace and knowing what's going on and seeing for yourself, we're in the business. We see things that other people don't see. I'll tell somebody, yeah, I just bought a property. Why would you buy that property for 760? Because it's going to be worth $1 million when I finish. Well, how do you know? Because there's not one property in Downey right now that's 1,800 square feet that isn't selling for over 900,000. When mine comes to the market, it'll be $1 million house.
Yeah.
Because we already know rates are where they're at. Everyone's settled in and they figured out what rates are. This is the new norm.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Kind of accept
If 6% is the rate, it's the rate. I remember my first house, I think I got 8.5% in San Bernardino, and I thought I had struck gold. I assumed a loan at 8.5%. Assumed a loan, because back then FHA loans were assumable, and I thought I hit the jackpot. 6%, that's nothing. Really? But we've programmed ourselves to think that 6 is bad and 3 is better. Well, yeah, of course 3 is better, but you didn't buy when the rates were 3.
Right. And then all of a sudden, and then now they're not going to buy at 6. Yeah. So if you can afford it, or well, if you can afford to get into the property, right?
Yeah. If all things make sense, you definitely, if you can afford the property, buy it. You don't sit back and wait. And again, I know it's easy because people think I want them to buy a house because I'm in real estate. I tell all my friends and relatives, I said, you don't have to even use me. Just go buy a place.
Yeah.
I've got mine already. I've bought a lot of property. I own property. I want you to have the same thing. That's why I partner with a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, hey, I want you to get to that point the same way I did. Because a lot of times they don't have anybody to kind of create that wedge and show them.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like going to the gym and you don't know what to work out. I'm the gym and I tell them, come in, I'll show you how to do it. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Buy a home and through life, you'll end up there 5-7 years later. How many people do I know that I sold the property to and they go like, we didn't know we were going to be here for 10 years. They bought it for $250 and blah, blah, blah. Now it's worth $500 and they paid it down to $200. And they're like, man, what if we hadn't done it back then and we tried to get in now? Because then they could buy it and they made the purchase. So definitely.
And you keep some of your properties, right? You renovate.
Yeah.
Is there a certain percentage that you do?
I have a theme. I want to flip 3, keep 1. So if I buy 4, I want to keep 1. And the way I do that is a lot of times I may keep it myself. I may buy it on subject to and rehab it and keep it myself, or I might sell it to a friend. So I'll say, listen, I got a house in San Bernardino. I got a unit on the back. Move into it. Rent the back out. Your mortgage is $2,000. You got $1,000 coming from the back. It's $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Wait, really? We own it together. You live there, and I'll pay all the closing costs. I'll even gift you the down payment. And that way I get them on the property ladder. The more people I can pull on the property ladder with me, it's a win-win situation. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Most people think life has to be some kind of a zero-sum game. You know, your loss is my win. No, we can both win.
Yeah.
When we work together, we win, don't we?
Yeah.
Because you know that I'm going to close the transaction and I know you're going to bring me a good product. You're going to disclose everything you know. I don't deal with wholesalers for that reason, right? Because they're not required to disclose. You're going to tell me, hey, Tony, I'm going to tell you right now, man, there was some, foundation issues with this problem. Cool. I'll deal with it. I'll address it, right? Mm-hmm. But that's one cool thing, that life can be a win-win. It doesn't have to be a zero sum. Doesn't mean that if I win, you lose. And most of my clients and friends understand that. I want my clients to win just as much as I want to win, because we can both win. I can get them the most money for the property and work just as hard as I would if it was my own property, right?
Oh, yeah.
And get them the most. That's why I advise a lot of clients, let me help you fix it up a little bit. Well, why? Because if I can put 10 into it and get you 30 more, instead of you netting 100,000, you net 120,000. That's real money, right? And when you start seeing it on paper and I show them, listen, I'll get you more for it. I can pretty much guarantee you that, because when I put my properties on the market rehabbed, I get top dollar. Mm-hmm. Not because I'm some great person, but with these interest rates now, people are willing to pay for quality.
Right. And I think I deal with that too, right? Right now, I've got a property in West Covina, and it seems that the beneficiaries, nobody wants to put any money into this property. They want to sell as is. And it's just such a loss because, we're going to be selling probably, quite a bit lower than what we could have sold for if we just do a few different things, right? You do the few things that we do to a property that can really bring in that value.
A lot of time it's just flooring and paint.
Yeah.
Believe you me.
And I'm running into these situations where even if it's cleaned up just enough with just the basics, I'm running into situations where the buyers, because there's limited inventory, the buyers will actually come in. I'm in a property in Ontario right now where two of them said, okay, if there's any appraisal conditions, for example, peeling paint or stucco work, the buyers will take care of that even before we close, just because they want that property, and or they'll pay, obviously the appraisal gap, they'll have the funds in to cover that, but the appraisal conditions could be different, right, from each appraiser.
Yeah.
So you kind of know what they're going to call out, so you know what they're going to be required.
Definitely.
But
You've probably seen 100 properties, and I've seen 100 properties where I go in and tell the client, we're going to have to paint those eaves. We're going to get that peeling paint. It's going to be an FHA buyer.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have to do that. We did that on one of my properties recently, Rialto on Tahoe. I went to the client, and she said, I don't want to do anything. I said, listen, our buyer's going to be FHA.
Yep.
So we can not do it and get the FHA offer and then have to do it, or you can let my guys do it now. We'll pay out the close of escrow. And then when people see it, we're getting the benefit of the work already being done. And so she did it. We put it on the market. We got 10 grand more than what we had listed it for.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And it fronted the freeway, the 210 freeway. It had not been touched in years, but the bottom line is she followed my guidance because all the trim needed to be replaced. We replaced it. We painted it. So when people came out to see it, they didn't see that. Yeah. They saw the work already done. Our buyer was an FHA buyer. When the appraiser came out, he didn't see all the chip paint, all the eaves rotting.
Yeah.
It was a win-win.
I know in one of the properties that I think I sold you, I'm not sure, but you said, yeah, don't clean it out because I don't want any competition. I think it was that La Palma one that I'm probably still working on. Don't clean it out because I don't want anybody to see the potential. So yeah, you actually said that. So if you're, you remember that?
Most of the properties I love is when, I go into them and the more trash, the more they need work, those are the best opportunities. Yeah. Miguel Vista was that way. Most people walk through there and they'd be like, oh my God, why are you buying this place? I made an offer on one in Pomona the other day that was just a mess. I didn't get it, but it was a perfect way where, the roof shiplap was coming off. It was rotten through there, but the roof was good, but it was just the eaves need to be repaired. The place, it was on a slab foundation. So the carpet and flooring was terrible. We're going to tear all that stuff out. Right? Yeah. We're going to put new electrical in, new draw. I mean, all the things that people think are super expensive, they're not that bad. Yeah. But I love them when they're, oh man, the worst looking ones are the best. Oh, I can get them all.
Well, and that's why I tell my clients, we just at least got to clean it out because we want to show people what can be done, and they can step through everything. And because you never really know what you're going to find out about a house until you look at it. There could be a crack on the wall. If it's a slab, there could be a crack in the corner or something that you didn't realize because it was covered up by a chair or just a bunch of, like a hoarder house.
Oh yeah, hoarder houses. That is becoming more prevalent. I'm telling you. I think that must be a new disease or something because I can't tell you how many homes I go through that are hoarder homes. It's just amazing. It must be some kind of mental illness or something because I don't remember as a kid going to 15 different hoarder houses, but now it just seems like it's a standard.
I think the last 5, they were basically like that, where just things start piling up and, people get older and they pass away. But it's just, that's what we're seeing. It's interesting. Well, that's our specialty, right? Probate homes, trust homes, people pass away. So maybe we see more of it than someone who doesn't.
And just in general, just from me going out, seeing properties that I look to buy, I think a lot of them are just, they may not be hoarder homes or just homes where people live. It's just one of those things.
Yeah. And what kind of trends are you seeing in real estate right now? And how would you say you'd adapt to them?
I'm seeing a lot less inventory because the ultimate thing that's going on right now is people have low interest rates and people aren't going to want to move from a 3 to a 6. And I don't blame them. I've got loans right now that I probably will never touch simply because when am I ever going to see 3% money on owner occupied and non-owner occupied? Yeah. And so that trend is really driving it where you see in the rearview mirror, like everyone says, oh my God, when COVID came along, the real estate market was going to die and it was going to collapse and real estate got better. And then even now with last year, when they announced in March of last year, they're going to start raising rates, right? Everyone was like, oh, the market's going to be, it's over. But then they forgot all those people sitting on low interest rates. Unemployment is still ticking below 4%. And a 30-year fix is somewhere around 6%, give or take. Plus, you can do a 2-1 buy down, which means you'll start at 4%, 5% on the second year, and 6%. That gives you time to grow into the payment. And I think a lot of people are adjusting to the market. I put on my board at the office, on one of my whiteboards, it says, this is the new market. Go get it. This is just the way it is. Yeah. So stop waiting for something to change. You change. You have to get more hungry. And the trend that I see is that people are getting used to, hey, the mortgage statement says 6%, 6%. My payment's going to be 3,800, but at least I own it. And Tony, the landlord, is not raising my rent.
Yeah.
And see, most people would think, like I see all the news, tenants are not paying, landlords are hurting. Not really. Every time I have a vacancy, I usually have 10 to 15 applicants. I bought a property over in Pico Rivera, $3,700 a month. We had 7 applicants, and pretty much all of them had good credit, good jobs.
Wow.
3,700 for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet. You know why? There's a need for housing. And people don't realize that because they read the news and they hear everything, but they're not in the trenches seeing what other people are seeing. I can find a tenant in any of my properties, from Apple Valley to Barstow to Orange County to LA. I can find a tenant in a minute. And it's usually higher than what I've been expecting. So the trend I see is that people are making more money because inflation has been running, 10% for the last couple of years. So that Uber ride that used to be $40 is now $60. That steak that used to be $40 is now $50. Groceries are costing more. People are making more, so they can afford more. I'm not saying everyone. Believe you me, I understand it's tough, but the trend I'm seeing is that this is the new normal. Things just cost more. I think we've had so many years of 2% inflation that people got kind of lulled into the fact that things don't normally go up. And I noticed, because I buy the same thing over and over and over again, that things are costing more. And as a result, people are paying more for rent. People are paying more for everything. And so you have to be a little bit more savvy about what you purchase, of course. But what I'm seeing is that people are absorbing the 6%. People are still buying. It's really tough when people come to me and ask, well, how are you doing in real estate? I go, great. Because first thing is I never stop the hustle, number one. And number two is I don't let the negativity affect me. I actually listen to the negative. My girl goes, why do you listen to all this negative stuff? Because I want to hear what other people are saying so that I know how to respond. Aren't you hurting? No, not really. Because I look at it from a standpoint, there's always going to be a buyer, there's always going to be a seller. You may not be participating, the people on the sidelines, but there's always a buyer, there's always a seller. If you don't understand that and you want to sit on the sideline and, boo-hoo, fine. But
Right.
I see that probably over the next 6 months, prices are going to rise below the median price. So if you got a house for $800 in Downey, it's going to sell if it's clean. If you got a $2 million house in Claremont, maybe not. If you got a, $2 million house in Rancho Cucamonga, probably not. If you got a $1.5 million house in Manhattan Beach, it's going to be gone.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a guy that's got $500,000 down and can put that down and can afford that mortgage payment because he's been waiting to buy something, or he just sold a place and he says, listen, I know I got a low rate here, but I can take that money, move it over here. People are still moving. People are still absorbing the rate. It's just because in a lot of people's mentality is that I'm not going to do it. I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
And you can't time the market.
I think we're seeing a lot of that now because on a couple of properties I have in San Diego, that one property we had 15 offers on, and the other one
Meadowbrook.
we had
Or Meadowlark.
Meadowbrook.
Yeah,
we had I think we had 20 offers on
That's
that
a
one.
nice property. That would have been a nice one, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, and the other one, I think we got some good money for that one, and the other one in El Cajon, we had 15 offers. So I think the buyers are realizing that it's not the rates aren't going anywhere. It's not going to crash, and if we don't get in when we can, we're not going to get in because
it's one of those things that you're trying to time the market. Yeah, I mean, anyone's ever bought stock? I used to buy stocks. I used to have a Morgan Stanley account, and you're trying to time the market as opposed to it's time in the market, right? Get in the market and realize that just through life, you're going to go back and forth to work. You're going to pay your mortgage, and then 5 years are going to go by, and you're going to be like, wow, man, you know what? I'm glad we bought this place in Canoga Park because you know what? This condo that we paid $250 for is now worth $500.
Yep.
And when we bought it, our friends laughed at us. Who would buy that stinky condo out in Canoga Park? We did. And now we have $300,000 of equity. We can sell it and go get us a place in Northridge. Right. We can go get ourselves a place in Porter Ranch because now we have a down payment where before we were trying to scrape it together 3.5%. Yeah. Don't try to time the market.
Yeah. And a lot of properties we sell, there's beneficiaries, and I always try to tell and educate either my client, if they don't own property, take your money, whatever you get out of the state sale, go buy something and or maybe even try to buy the property that we're selling, buy out the other beneficiaries because you should get into the market. Don't waste the money, as what I try to tell them, because it goes quick.
Money will burn a hole in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's a thing. People, whenever I have money, I always try to put it back into an investment, because then I start thinking about things that I could buy with it, which of course I'm not going to buy. I always joke with it. Somebody says, "Are you going to buy that car?" I'm like, "No, I'll go rent it. I'll rent the car first before I'll ever buy a car, a new car." And so, yeah, money will find problems. I tell a lot of people.
Oh, that's very true.
Money will find problems. Your brother-in-law will need money. Your sister's going to need money, because once they know you got the money, they're going to come hunting.
Oh yeah. Everybody's got a business idea or something else. So,
please don't ever start a business with your money like that. Go hustle your money together and start your business, because you're going to be more effective. Sure. I think Mark Cuban or someone said at one time, never start a business with borrowed money, because you're not hungry. Yeah. You need to go save that money and start the business. And I know that probably may be controversial too, but you got to be hungry. If you have your own business, you got to have that hunger and that fire inside of you.
Oh yeah, you got to. Otherwise, it's not.
And if I borrow the money, then it's like, whatever. Yeah, if it doesn't work out, the bank loses money, right?
Yeah, and then exactly. But it's you worked hard for it, you appreciate it. You got to spend it the right way, and you measure everything, right? And it's a calculated risk, whatever you invest in. But I like what you were saying as far as kind of a lot of what you shared. And I know there may be some people out there, right? If somebody's looking to sell a property, or it could be an investor that maybe needs some advice on a lot of different things. Maybe they can reach out to you just for and I don't know, consult with them on a project, maybe.
Definitely. I'm always looking to partner with people. They can always reach out to me. I'm on Instagram at Synergy One Real Estate. It's just the way it sounds, Synergy One ONE Real Estate. My number's there, or you can call me at 626-536-2225. Under my Instagram page is my phone number. Just reach out to me, give me a call. I don't do a lot of direct messaging, but if you text me or call me, I'll get back with you. I love to partner with people. I love to bring people into the business. Like I said, most people don't have a way into the business. Yeah. People call me all the time. They want to get their license. They want to get into sales. And a lot of time I tell them, it's better to partner with somebody that has experience. It's better to get 50% of something than 100% of nothing. Oh, yeah. And a lot of new people in investing in real estate, they don't have a pathway in. There's no a magic pill you can take or an exact route to take to get to success in real estate. But if you partner with somebody that's already doing it and successful, that will take you a long ways. Oh, for sure. And when I got into this, I partnered with Mark Valdez on my first flip, and he had all the construction knowledge. He had all the savvy, and I had the money. I had the money, he had the savvy. And he says, hey, and he saw that in me. He's like, hey, you've got capital. Let's put it to work. And at the same time, I put the capital in, but I learned from his experience. I learned how to use a Sawzall. I knew how to do plumbing, electrical, all the different things that I didn't learn in college. My dad wasn't, that kind of guy, but I learned it from Mark Valdez. And to this day, I mean, every time I see him, I always tell him thank you. Oh yeah, because it led me to where I'm right now. It's kind of funny when we do sell these properties and we got to go in. If sometimes we'll save the client money, we'll double strap the water heater, we'll put in the smoke alarms, the carbon detector. The small things that you don't have to call somebody out to do, right? That's really important to know how to do a few things. You've seen my trunk. Yeah, and you see my trunk. I've got smoke detectors, carbon eyes, I got all that stuff. Log boxes, we got doorknobs. Sometimes we have to change all the locks. We've got screws. So much stuff in my car. But it's good because you never know. Like I had to chain up a fence the other day, and I had to go through my car, and I got through one of my crates, and I had a chain and a lock. And that little difference is to lock that gate would keep someone from coming in and vandalizing the property or whatever. Yeah. It's just the little things that you do that clients recognize. And I think even other agents and brokers recognize when you do the little things. For example, someone removed the lockbox off one of my listings in San Diego. I'd put another lockbox on the back just in case, because you never know, right? Yeah. Because the distance between me and San Diego is 2 hours. Oh, yeah. And so when someone took my lockbox, I called the agent and said, hey, there's one on the back side. You can use that one, right? But you have to think about all the other things that can come up. Oh, sure. But again, that's what they pay us for. I mean, a lot of our clients don't realize all the things that we do behind the scenes to make the deal work. And I don't want to tell them. I just want them to feel like, man, he made this too easy. I was thinking in my mind how tough it was going to be, and you made it easy. Yeah. Because then they're going to refer me their friend, their cousin, their mother. Exactly. And I'll do the exact same thing. Yeah. Customer service in this business will win you more business than anything else. Yeah. You don't need a fancy sign. You don't need a fancy car. You don't need a fancy website, but you need to do the customer service.
You have to. That's what the business is all about. Yeah.
Yeah. If anything, get a bunch of carbon monoxide detectors, smoke detectors, and a strap for the water heater, because when appraisers show up, they don't want to come back. They don't want the 175 for the reinspection.
Right.
They just want to come in, do the appraisal, and get out of there, and they make their money. They don't want to come back for reinspections, and they're going to remember you when they're sitting down making those adjustments, plus or minus, that you were there. The power was on, the lights were on, the smoke detector, all the things that they need so they can check every box and move on.
Yep. And the water heaters, there's different size. There's a 50-gallon, 80-gallon, 120-gallon. Always go with the 120-gallon strap, because you don't have to drive somewhere and go get,
Oh man, yeah,
that's probably the biggest straps you can get.
Better to be over prepared than under.
Oh yeah, it's